Something shifted this week in how this war is being fought. Iran deployed its most advanced missile for the first time in combat. European warships are now moving toward the conflict zone, and Amazon's cloud infrastructure, the kind powering banks, governments, and businesses across the Gulf, is partially offline after Iranian drone strikes. This is no longer just a military confrontation between Iran, Israel, and the United States. The conflict is widening, and in ways that most people aren't fully tracking yet. Let's break it down. Iran has now deployed the Fattah-2, its most advanced missile system, and the one its military has been reserving for a moment like this. The Fattah-2 uses a hypersonic glide vehicle, which makes it fundamentally different from a conventional ballistic missile. Standard ballistic missiles follow a predictable arc. Missile defense systems are engineered around predicting that arc and placing an interceptor in the right place at the right time. A hypersonic glide vehicle doesn't follow that arc. It maneuvers, adjusting its path during flight, capable of approaching from unexpected angles. That makes the tracking and intercept calculation exponentially harder. Iran claims the Fattah-2 can reach speeds of Mach 15 and strike targets up to 1,400 kilometers away. Independent Western analysts are more cautious. Experts at the International Institute for Strategic Studies have noted that the Fattah system has not been fully proven under operational conditions, and that some of Iran's claimed specifications are disputed. What is not disputed is that the missile was used in combat for the first time on March 1, 2026, and that it represents a genuine qualitative escalation in Iran's offensive capability. The vice president of Israel's Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, or by its name Einstein, one of the companies that builds Israel's missile defense, acknowledged last year that Iran's hypersonic missile development had forced a complete rethink of how Israel approaches interception. His words, "Hypersonic missiles open a new era in air defense." That's the developer of the system saying it. That's not Iranian propaganda. That's the reality of where this technology has taken the conflict. Now here's the development that most people outside the tech world haven't fully absorbed yet. Iranian drone strikes hit 3 Amazon Web Services data centers in the UAE and Bahrain in early March, confirmed by Amazon itself, and later described by the Uptime Institute as the first confirmed military attack on a hyperscale cloud provider in history. 2 of the 3 availability zones in AWS's UAE region went offline. A facility in Bahrain sustained damage from a nearby strike. Amazon confirmed roughly 60 AWS services were disrupted across the region. The cascading effects were immediate. Banks, payment platforms, ride-sharing apps, and government services across the Gulf experienced outages. Emirates NBD, First Abu Dhabi Bank, delivery platform Careem, and payment providers Alan and HubPay all reported disruptions. Iran's Revolutionary Guard stated that the Bahrain facility was targeted specifically because AWS hosts U.S. military and intelligence infrastructure. Think about what that represents strategically. Iran didn't just hit military assets this week. It hit the cloud computing backbone that American corporations spent billions building across the Middle East. And it did it with drones that cost a fraction of the infrastructure they took offline. Bloomberg described it simply: a new kind of target has been added to the list. And then there's the development that changes the conflict's geography entirely. An Iranian-made drone struck RAF Akrotiri, a British Royal Air Force base in Cyprus, on March 2nd. Cyprus is an EU member state. That attack triggered a coordinated European military response unlike anything we've seen in this conflict so far. Here's what's now moving toward the eastern Mediterranean. The Charles de Gaulle, France's nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, Neyung, was pulled from the Baltic Sea and redirected south by President Macron. The British destroyer HMS Dragon, equipped with the Sea Viper air defense system, is being deployed. Spain is sending its most advanced frigate, the Cristobal Colón. Greece has already dispatched 2 frigates and 4 F-16s. Italy, the Netherlands, and Australia have also announced they are sending assets. These deployments are framed as defensive, protecting Cyprus, guarding evacuation routes, providing air defense. None of these countries have joined the U.S.-Israeli offensive campaign against Iran. But the presence of European naval assets in a conflict zone where Iran has already struck a British base significantly raises the stakes of any miscalculation. France and Spain have both publicly criticized the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran as violations of international law. Spain refused to allow the U.S. to use its bases for missions against Iran, a refusal that triggered trade threats from President Trump. Yet, Spain is still sending a warship to protect EU territory. That tension between political opposition to the war and military obligation to allies is the defining dynamic shaping Europe's role right now. We covered this in our last video, but it's worth updating. The Washington Post's reporting, confirmed by CBS, NBC, and CNN, that Russia is providing Iran with satellite-based targeting intelligence on U.S. military positions continues to develop. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi confirmed his country is receiving political and other support from Russia and China, though he declined to detail military specifics. What we know is that Iran's strikes in this conflict have been notably more precise than in previous engagements, specifically targeting radar sites and communications infrastructure. Multiple analysts have pointed to the pattern as consistent with enhanced targeting data. Russia has the satellite constellation Iran lacks. The connection between those two facts is not confirmed as a direct causal link, but it is the working assessment of U.S. intelligence officials. One more thread worth pulling on: Europe is facing an energy crunch that this conflict is directly worsening. Russia cut gas supplies. Qatar, Europe's alternative LNG supplier, suspended shipments because its own infrastructure is under pressure from the conflict. European governments are now deploying warships toward a conflict that is simultaneously squeezing their energy supply. That's an extraordinarily difficult strategic position to be in, and it explains why European leaders are walking a very fine line between maintaining alliance commitments and trying not to get drawn into direct hostilities. Here's where the conflict stands as of this week. Iran has deployed its most capable missile system for the first time. It has demonstrated the ability to hit not just military hardware, but the digital infrastructure the global economy runs on. It has forced a coordinated European military response by striking an EU member state. And it is receiving intelligence support from Russia that appears to be making its strikes more precise. At the same time, U.S. and Israeli airstrikes on Iran continue. European powers are deploying defensively, not offensively. Gulf states are navigating an impossible position between their American security arrangements and Iranian pressure. The next 72 hours will matter. We're watching everything closely, and we'll be back with the next update as it develops. Stay locked in.